This is a story of a hidden diamond covered in dust and a father who looked at the sun but could not see the light. In the wealthy suburbs of Lagos, the mansion of Chief Olariyanju stood as a monument to success, but inside its walls, a great deception was breathing. In the magnificent mansion of Chief Olariyanju in Lekki, there was a girl named Adanna. To the neighbors, she was just the house girl. To Mrs. Beatrice, the chief's wife, she was a piece of furniture, something to be used, moved, and kicked when necessary. Adanna did not know where she came from. Her earliest memory was the heat of the stove and the weight of a heavy mop. She had no room of her own. She slept on a thin mat on the kitchen floor, surrounded by bags of rice and the smell of stale spices. While the chief's only daughter, Chidima, slept on silk sheets and woke up to the sound of music, Adanna woke up to the sound of a slap on her back.
Get up, you useless girl. The floor is still dusty. Do you think we brought you here to be a princess?
Every night, after the chief had finished his dinner and retired to his room, Adanna would go to the large waste bin behind the kitchen. She wasn't looking for food. She was looking for the newspapers the chief threw away. In the dark of the kitchen, by the tiny light of a dim torch, Adanna taught herself to read. She would trace the letters of the Financial Times and the Guardian. She learned words like investment, legitimacy, and heritage. While Chidima, the chief's daughter, spent her days failing her private lessons and shopping for designer bags, the house girl was quietly educating herself on the world. Adanna knew more about the chief's business from his discarded papers than his own wife did. Chief Olariyanju was a man obsessed with legacy. He looked at Chidima with a blind, desperate pride. In his heart, he secretly believed Chidima was his golden heir, the one who would carry the Olariyanju name to London and beyond. He ignored Adanna completely. To him, she was just a shadow that moved the furniture. He had no idea that his true blood was the one reading his newspapers in the dark. The peace of the house was shattered when Dr. Richard Okoro arrived from London. He sat in the living room, his face grave. "Chief," Dr. Richard said,
"I am here regarding the Wellington estate. Before Lady Elizabeth Wellington died 18 years ago, she gave birth. The Earl of Wellington, her father, has passed away. In his dying confession, he revealed that the child was sent here, to Nigeria. If the child is found, she inherits the Wellington banks, the London properties, and a fortune worth £500 million.
The chief's heart hammered in his chest. He had loved Elizabeth, his first wife, with all his soul. He had been told she and the baby died in a crash. Now, hope flared in his eyes. "It must be Chidima," the chief exclaimed. "Beatrice told me she saved the baby from the wreckage." Beatrice, standing by the stairs, felt a cold sweat break out on her neck. She had lied to the chief for 18 years. Chidima was her daughter from a secret lover, born just weeks after the accident. She had used the Wellington baby, Adanna, as a slave to hide her identity forever. Beatrice knew that a DNA test would be the end of her life of luxury. She had to act fast. "Chief," Beatrice said that evening, "we must protect Chidima. If the world knows she's a billionaire heiress, kidnappers will come for her. Let the doctor take the DNA samples tomorrow." But that night, Beatrice called a man named Segun, a dangerous character from her past.
I want the maid gone. Make it look like a kidnapping. Don't kill her yet. Just keep her where no one will ever find her.
At 3 a.m., loud bangs shook the house. Armed men in masks burst into the kitchen. They didn't go for the chief's room. They didn't go for the safe. They grabbed Adanna, tossing her into the back of a van. To make it look real, they smashed the windows and stole a few gold trophies from the mantelpiece. In the morning, the house was in chaos.
They took her! The kidnappers
Chief Olarawaju was devastated, but not for the reason Beatrice expected. For the first time, he felt a strange stabbing guilt. He looked at the kitchen floor where Adanna's small mat lay. Near the mat, he found something that shook him. A stack of his old newspapers, neatly folded, with words underlined in pencil. He realized this girl, whom he had treated like an animal, was trying to learn. She was trying to grow. A fatherly instinct he couldn't explain began to burn in his chest. I am not doing the DNA test yet, the chief announced. I cannot celebrate Chidima's inheritance while that poor girl is in the hands of monsters. She was taken because of us.
She is just a maid, Chief. Let the police handle it. We have a fortune to claim.
But the chief refused. He spent the next 3 weeks in the streets of Lagos. He visited the slums of Ajegunle, the hidden shanties under the bridges, and the dark corners of Ikududu. He spent millions of naira on informants. He neglected his business. He grew thin and his hair turned grey from worry. He didn't know why, but he felt that if he didn't find Adanna, he would lose his soul. While the chief searched the streets, Adanna was locked in a damp room in an uncompleted building on the outskirts of the city. Her hands were tied, but her mind was free. She remembered an article she had read in the chief's newspaper about cell tower triangulation. She noticed that her kidnapper, Segun, was always on his phone. One day, Segun left his phone on a crate to go and urinate outside. Adanna, using her feet, dragged the crate closer. She couldn't unlock the phone, but she saw the emergency call button. She pressed it and dialed the only number she had memorized from the newspapers, the chief's office direct line. She didn't speak, she just left the line open. On the other end, the chief's secretary recorded the background noise, the sound of a nearby sawmill and a very specific church bell ringing. The chief and the police stormed the uncompleted building just as Segun was raising a machete to move Adanna to a new location. When the chief saw Adanna, bruised, hungry, but standing tall, he wept. He pushed the police aside and hugged her. I am sorry, he whispered. I am so sorry I didn't see you. They returned to the mansion. Beatrice was waiting, her face a mask of horror. She tried to act happy, but Dr. Richard was also there, holding a briefcase. Now that everyone is safe, we must finish the DNA process. I have already taken a sample from the chief. I need the samples from the daughters. Beatrice tried one last trick. She had switched the labels on the cotton swabs earlier that morning, putting Chidima's name on a sample she had taken from herself, hoping to confuse the results. 1 week later, the final meeting was held. The air in the room was thick like a storm about to break. The results are in, Dr. Richard said. We ran 3 tests to be certain. He turned to the chief.
First, the girl you call Chidima has no biological connection to you. She is the daughter of Beatrice and a man named Segun, but the same man currently in police custody for kidnapping.
The chief gasped, looking at Beatrice, who collapsed into a chair. Second, Dr. Richard continued, his voice rising.
We tested the maid, Adanna. She is not only your biological daughter, Chief, but she is the 100% match for the Wellington lineage.
She is the daughter of Lady Elizabeth. The room went silent. Chidima started to scream, "It's a lie! I am the princess, not the slave!" But the chief wasn't listening to Chidima. He was looking at Adanna. "Wait," the chief said, his voice trembling. "If she is my daughter, how does she know how to read my business papers?" Adanna stepped forward. For the first time, she looked her father in the eye. "Because while you were looking for an heir in silk dresses, I was finding my inheritance in the trash you threw away. I taught myself, father. I knew who I was before the DNA test told you." The police arrived to take Beatrice away. She was charged with the kidnapping of Adanna and the long-time fraud against the chief.
Chidima, who had mocked Adanna for years, was stripped of her designer clothes and forced to leave the house with nothing but the truth of her birth. 1 month later, the Olanrewu mansion was quiet. Beatrice is in prison awaiting trial. The chief had begged Adanna for forgiveness every single day. But Adanna's life had changed forever. She didn't stay in the House of Shadows. A private jet sat on the tarmac at Murtala Mohammed Airport. Adanna stood at the steps, dressed in a beautiful, simple suit. Her hair was no longer hidden by a dirty scarf. It was styled beautifully. Her skin glowed with health. Dr. Richard stood beside her. "Are you ready, Lady Adanna? Your grandfather's lawyers are waiting for us in London. The estate is yours. The schools, the charities, the houses, everything." Adanna looked back at the city of Lagos. She thought of all the girls still scrubbing floors, all the children being treated like animals because no one knew their names. "I am ready," Adanna said, "but I am not just going to claim a fortune. I am going to make sure that no other child in my country has to sleep on the kitchen floor." She stepped onto the plane. As the plane rose into the clouds, leaving the heat of Nigeria for the mist of London, Adanna looked out the window. She was no longer the maid. She was a daughter, an heiress, and a woman of power. For 18 years, they called her a servant. They called her an animal. They called her nobody. But destiny had been silent, not absent. And when the truth finally spoke, even the mighty bowed before the girl they once forced to sleep on a kitchen floor. Thank you for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you loved the story of justice and destiny, hit the like button and subscribe to African Night Tales by Aina for more powerful African tales. Your support helps us grow.